Okay, I found my cat. She's cool. But the rain is subsiding, but I still feel a lot more comfortable with her being inside. Stop scratching at my chair, please. Not that, listen. In my particular case, the equivalent or the tantamount of proxies, Iranian bat proxies, were all the minions that kept on pursuing me with witchcraft that I'm presently talking about right now. I am trying to help women in my country, South Africa, to conquer the darkness of misogyny. Never mind misogyny, but just the blatant disregard of God-ordained roles by both men and women that have also caused men to, upon blanket painting women as these rebellious, disrespectful psychopaths, have abused every last one of us. They have gone on right ahead and taken the wrong women. Not that any woman must be treated with derision, but they went and they grabbed women that have no qualms with honoring the patriarch, and they have banded us together with women they're mad at for being feministic and killed us all in one fell sweep. So they essentially raided innocent people's lives, grabbed innocent babies, put them in ovens, and then switched them on. And the retaliation by God in your ubiquitous attack on women in South Africa, including Karabo, who was innocent in this whole thing, is to eliminate your whole entire monolith, because it is, with great indiscretion, it is destructive to the country, and it has got a bone to pick with women, including women that don't have a bone to pick with men. You went and ubiquitously punished South African, especially black women, for the era of these disrespectful Jezebels all over the show, and thought that we all were the same thing. You blanket painted us and then endured God's daughters through a most heinous, excruciating, devastating banishment from society because you thought you could punish women with withholding from them basic things unless they grovel at your feet, and then used witchcraft to make them salivate after you in spite of your lack of character. And when a certain group of women did not appropriately respond to your black magic because they're covered by the Holy Spirit, you then made them the worst of your victims. Due to how we don't respond and due to how you can't put us in our place the way that you have with worldly women. Listen, the thing that has been done to me is so poignant, is so deep, is so extreme that if you don't have the Holy Spirit, if you have not God, you will suffocate under it. You are not going to make it. The thing that has been done to me for a decade is exactly the thing that has been getting done to black women in South Africa, in particular black women. But the only reason why my case looks as extreme as it does is because, like I said, Psalm 91, 1,000 fall on your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it does not come near you. In other words, what I'm getting at right now is that all their weapons, their witchcraft, all of their intention to put women in their place by decimating their virtue in order to make them be reduced to nothing but whores. A mindset of and taking a dainty, coy, sweet girl and just dangling a carrot in front of her, and then when she comes to eat, you then drop it on the ground on some all you women deserve that. The way that these men so hate women, they went on a ubiquitous punishing mission against especially black women and dangled carrots of affection in our faces, and when then we were close enough to eat, dropped on the floor and said, bark like a dog, and said, crawl like a dog, and said, who do you think you are? I told you, I get everything I want. And when Christians among us didn't, of course, respond to this crazy carrot dangled, they imagined us of them all especially arrogant. They looked at Christian girls, Christian women, as tough stains, as the ones by Bona. They looked at us as, who do you think you are, when all the other women I've done this to have eventually come to grovel at my feet. Except we did not grovel at people's feet for pride purposes. We did not refuse to grovel at feet because, do you know who I am? It was only because we don't tend to grovel at feet other than the feet of Jesus, for no other simplicity but the fact that we worship God and Him only. We refuse to worship men, and that only because it was the only right thing to do. We merely wanted to be godly. That's it. It was not an affront to men or a disrespect to men to honor God. It was a choice for our souls. It was a choice for our souls, the choice of which is not offered just to women, but the world. For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whomsoever shall believeth upon Him will not perish, but have everlasting life. The same God of which also said to us, all, come to me, all of you who labor and are heavily laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. He sent that charge out, that offer of grace, that olive branch out to men and to women. So therefore we all were given an opportunity to rightly worship where we ought, as opposed to laying ourselves prostrate before golden calves. Some of us made a decision to lay ourselves prostrate before the throne of grace. We chose Jesus and not a golden calf. Therefore, anybody at all that comes here and says, I will give you stuff if you will do ABC, it's not that we don't like you, or it's not that we're rejecting you. It's that we are rejecting idols and choosing Jesus. It's not about you. But you see, that's just the thing about narcissists. Everything will be about them. Even men and imposters deceiving and being deceived will thoroughly look at a woman refusing to sleep with them and think of it as a rejection of him, or some kind of an affront to his manhood, or some kind of pomp or arrogance or disrespect, and a woman not recognizing what her place is in society. A woman that is rejectful of the patriarchy or the strength of men or what God has given men to be on earth. You, as a narcissistic, misogynistic rando that is chauvinistic, that has already determined an ideal in your mind about how all women are, will look at a woman rejecting your advances when you throw money at them, when you throw comfort, opulence at them, and they reject you. You will always see this woman as a snob because they've been made like that. And so you will then ramp up and increase the heat, put babies in ovens and switch them on. You will overkill. You will shoot people until it is impossible to identify them but for with their DNA. You will kill with all that hatred because you have established a deep hatred, a deep one, against a people, ignorantly so, as you've been taught a rhetoric since you were a child. You've been made a little gangster soldier with limited context or understanding, and so because you don't have understanding, you just hate ubiquitously a people group without really understanding where the source of that hatred came from. The source of which is not even so much Palestinian history or Philistinian history or even Israeli history, but the fact that we as human beings are born hating God, dead in trespasses and sins. And so therefore those people whom he has chosen for his own possession, necessarily then will the devil spur up in you who are sons of the devil to hate them too. So for the same reasons that Islam hates Israel, so too does the world hate disciples. It's not about us, don't you see? It's not about Karabo or Leonard or Peter or Cassandra or Lerado, the saint. It's about the fact that you hate Jesus. You hate your maker at enmity with him. From the time he came out of your mother's womb, you were bashing your fist against him. It stems from the fact that the God of this world, who blinds the minds of unbelievers, who is Satan, went straight to work as soon as you popped out of your mother's womb to tarry you from embracing the cross of Christ. And the fact that since the garden, there is a judgment on women to grovel at the feet of men no matter what, even when they don't make sense. And a judgment from Adam to rule her with an iron fist no matter what. With an iron fist, like I say, even when it goes against God. He will abuse his authority, and she will ignore that he's unreasonable in the way that she can't help but salivate after him. She will not have boundaries or restrictions as to how far she will go for a man, and neither will this man have boundaries or restrictions as to how far he will try to run her. He will therefore fetishize every iota of her, love her for sex and nothing else, and she will, in spite of being used so heinously, still abide, except if she has embraced the second Adam, and except if he has embraced the second Adam. There is a conglomerate of souls on the earth that are set apart, different from the rest. They know how they ought to think, they know how they ought to be, and they understand as men that hatred of women is uncouth, unsavory, and ungodly, and they understand as women that hatred of men is uncouth, ungodly, and unsavory. But they also understand as these respective genders that it is imperative to hate anyone at all, that they must hate, that they might maintain their salvation, their sobriety, their God-likeness, their godliness. If anybody does not hate mother, father, brother, sister, they are not fit to enter the kingdom of God. So therefore, when a woman despises you because you're ungodly, she does a holy thing. She does a righteous thing. She's not despising you purely because you're a man. She is despising you because you are in particular a very violently ungodly man. She must flee from you. And when she does that, it is not you she is resentful of. It is the fact that you are trying to rip her apart from the only thing that matters when she comes on earth. Love God. She has been born to worship no other, none other but the God of the universe. And when she makes that choice for him, it means she must hate you if you hate him. But you see, when you're self-invested, enveloped in your own ideal, having been ideologically trained to think a tarnished way, you will think every woman that rejects you is rejecting you because they hate manhood. How in the world can you reach any such conclusion as a sober mind? How any man can in their sober minds reach a conclusion that women hate men when even the most accomplished of women, staunch, strong, hard-knock, feministic, crazy, blowing steam on the top of a mountain, lamenting against how men ain't jack, woman can easily, like as in, and she's on the floor giving candy or ripping candy out of the hands of a baby, where when that same woman that's placarding, rioting against men because they're trash can easily be made to commit some of the most heinous and most abominable mistakes of her life simply because she fell in love. I mean, it happens all the time. It happens all the time. There are feminists in history that determined never to get married, that not only ended up married, gave these men children, and ended up super bitter after divorce because they told themselves, I will never, ever, ever, ever accommodate a man like that. And then one sweeps her off her feet and look at her get married to the very thing she says she would never do. Long story short, it's a bit of a joke when feminists rock up on a mountaintop, when they elevate themselves and they bash their chests like King Kong against men, especially when they are raving heterosexuals. Understand, all it would take is for the right guy to rock up, sweep her off her feet to make her forget about her little placard, her Sharpie pen pencils, her picketing at the riot, at the rally, at the march, for her to abandon all that and allow herself to get fat, barefoot, and pregnant in the kitchen is to fall in love with the right kind of Casanova. The guy that will speak the right kinds of words, hook her up with a cocktail of enough pheromonic drugs, can bring down from a lofty height of crazy even the most staunch of feminists, because it's our nature to grovel thanks to the fall at the feet of men. It is our curse, and it is written in God's word that no one can deliver from the hand of. And so if no one can deliver from God's hand, if women are subject to the curse on their lives after the fall to essentially desire the love of our husbands, men can always weaken us by simply offering us even an iota of love. But you see, you fall apart because you just can't love. You fall apart because you can't love. You fall apart because you won't love. You fall apart because it is within your strategy, these reverse psychology mind games that you all keep on playing. It's your plan. It's your strategy to withhold affection from women. You literally go out of your way to buy reverse psychology, act in the climate of the woman that you do like you don't like her. It's a whole man cave tactic. I've listened to enough of these crazy misogynistic channels on YouTube to understand that their plan to handle these feminist women is to withhold love from them when they don't realize that it is literally their biggest weapon to subdue them. All you do is just wrestle and poke away and prod away at a hornet's nest when you act typically misogynistic in the climate of a misandric woman. It is a powder keg of heads butting in some kind of an arena like bulls. And the end result is pretty much the end of the world, like proper. You just end up taking the mark of the beast, frazzling yourselves and upsetting God, getting yourselves the right penalty that is due. That's all that happens at the end of all that. But men, you are without excuse when you claim that women were crazy, disrespectful, and couldn't bend, couldn't mend, when you had all the evidences under heaven that you could ever run these streets with, that all it would have taken for you to grab lollipop out of the mouth of a child was to offer it a lie, some kind of a fib, some kind of a veil of affection. All you do to bring down a picketing, placarding protagonist for a feministic movement woman from that stage as a soapbox orator is to not even so much truly love her, but merely promise her love, and she will quit her mission. But like I said, you have failed quite abysmally at that, haven't you? And so because you have failed, women have been strengthened against you, because with them having no incentive to salivate at your feet, seeing as you want them to salivate at your feet, all that they've done is fight and war and riot. And so you've only ever gotten worse and worse and worse against them. The way that you are so ill-equipped to fulfill your mission in the lives of women, you could not even deceive them into thinking you can love them enough for them to calm down at least for 5 years. Do you know that women of old, from the 50s, before these 50s, 60s, not 60s, but 20s, 30s, for basically long ago, before these feministic movements revolutionized how women are, essentially, if they could say if it wasn't broken, we shouldn't have fixed it, they were happier than women today who are suffering from a severity of mental illness. They are more prone to things like cigarettes and drugs and drinking. They are drunks as badly as men are drunks. The population of women that are drunks leaves a lot to be desired. It is shameful. There was a time when it was the man that was out here perpetually dragging on a cigarette, puffing away, alongside with some kind of a cognac next to him or a beer after work. Women were the ones that were largely sober, and yet in 2025, I've got a drunk for a female relative that drinks like a fish, like a man. And she's got manly habits now as a result. Miserable, macabre, depressed, and yet arrogant, pompous like a wife beater. If she had the muscles, she would properly, thoroughly beat the women down that are trying to put her in her place. But because she's weak and frail, because women are the weaker sex, you can't afford to be a drunk when you're so weak. You can't swing a punch and actually make any kind of dent. And yet you allow yourself to get that drunk. You'll get pinned down, man. You'll get raped. Given that level of exquisite debauchery in women, there is therefore now an exorbitant depression in them, and then they think that they can alleviate or eradicate this depression by sleeping with each other. They think they can just smooch each other and it'll all be better, except at the end of the day, the judgment is not that. From now on, your desire will be for your lover. That's what God said when he judged Eve. He didn't say to Eve, from now on your desire will be for your lover. He said from now on your desire will be for your husband. So even these lesbians are vapid, they're vacuous, they're empty, because the judgment on women is to desire men. It is to desire husbands. And so to retaliate by turning to lesbianism is only going to rob you of that which you need, and your response is going to be an attempt to recruit more and more women to smooch other women and show that you don't need men to a point of not needing their piping, even though you can't make a baby without it. It's just a self-deceit coursing through the veins of society, and women are trying to convince themselves that they can survive without men because men are unloving, and men think that they can survive without women because women are disrespectful, when the solution to this would be for, if you just loved them, they would straighten up and fly right. They would conquer and overcome their gangster belief that they don't need you, and their feminism would simmer down. Similarly to women, if you merely just respected your roles under men, they would stop being so gangster violent against you. They will stop using their muscles and everything to pin you down on the ground, have your body by force, or kill you in the worst case scenario. They would also not see it need, fit, nor necessary to punish you with that which is their material girth, because they tend to have more than you. And in spite of having more than you, they still don't want you to have anything to yourself at all. Cause of the misogyny you induced in them, right? Yeah, men are still by far, and that's never gonna change. I said that in my other videos. The stronger ones materially between us all. With all of these fights that we are rioting up and down, picketing in corporate South Africa to try and earn the same salaries as them, we then have, listen to this, right? It's quite brazen. Our particular country, I can speak for South Africa, I don't know about international markets, but in this country, largely under corporate governance in our companies, I can't really say that it's a state law more than it is an organizational company law. There tends to be a whole rule that if at all you divulge, spill, as with beans on the table, your salary to other employees, you literally could face disciplinary action and get fired. People are not allowed to share their salaries. They're not allowed to say that I earn 50K, how much do you earn? Like, I'll show you yours, you show me mine. Like little children suffering from the phallic phase of childhood development under Freud. I'll show you yours if you show me mine. They're not supposed to say that. You're not supposed to share your salaries with each other, precisely because nobody is interested in being equitable and fair now, are they? Men are still earning way more than us. And when you get to corporate, you can't make like the phallic stage, suffering from penis envy and castration anxiety respectively, asking boys to show you theirs in order for you to show them yours. You can't show them your salaries, same way that they can't show you theirs, because of the fact that it is maintained patriarchally. They want to still earn more money than you because it's the curse. Like literally no one can deliver from the hand of God. No one can deliver from the hand of God, such that within corporate governance in my particular country, that is South Africa, it is illegal, it is wrong. You could get fired, disciplinary action, get some kind of a letter, a warning of sorts, if you show people your salary, because they want to maintain men earning more than women. The country, corporate governance will have it that way. Adam will lord it over Eve with an iron fist, and Eve will long for her husband. The Lord will never ever allow for any societal structure to overwhelm the material strength of men above women. He will never allow any matriarchal society to take over the world. He will never allow, it's not his plan. He himself is the Godhead, which is male, it's masculine. God made man in his own image, his. Male and female, he created them. Do you understand? He is a patriarch. The Godhead has no women. It is the Holy Spirit, man, Son, man, Father, man. And so therefore man necessarily must be the head, and he was made first. Anyone trying to reverse that dreamer, it's never gonna give. The Lord God Almighty, with his omnipotence, in employing providence on the planet, will organize things in such a way so as to ascertain this machine maintains strength of resources in the patriarchy. So women, you will perpetually, if at all you don't just submit under this, like just take it in your stride, you will perpetually be frustrated by the fact that men will always have more money than you. Men will always be better able to protect you even though you are trying everything in your power to act as if though you can totally bring a country to victory in war by being a soldier. You will always need an army made up of majority men, seeing as you insist these days on having women in the army. You cannot have a military that's got 50-50 women and men, because you are literally setting that country up for failure. You are setting that nation up to be obliterated by its enemy. No country's president is in their right mind to allow diversity, equity, and inclusion in the freaking army. And that's why Joe Biden did not make sense in America. Because if you insist on bringing namby-pamby men who are riddled with hormones that are acting like women into the army, and also if you insist on populating enemy lines, populating front lines, with women, you will lose. If at all they are taken in as prisoners of war, crimes against humanity are going to happen. They're going to get raped. They are going to make for very difficult bargaining chips. They are going to get treated very differently from male prisoners of war. It just doesn't make sense, like proper. Like to deny basic facts, to deny the fact that you as a woman with curvature, hips, breasts, a cute smile, high cheekbones, long hair, long eyelashes, soft features, can stand before soldiers that have not seen their wives and girlfriends in months and not face the risk of rape is naive. So to throw yourself in the interest of I'm a woman, I can do it too, is to put yourself at the mercy of being undermined precisely because you're a woman, with the fact that you've got plumbing that men at war just don't have. You also don't have the muscles. So when you go head to head with them, no matter how much you're in the gymnasium, even a dude that doesn't even lift a dumbbell can pin you down. They're stronger than us in the worst way. Thicker necks, thicker skin, grander muscle mass, grander lung capacity, can outrun you, can out everything. You physically, brawn. They got that down in the worst way in comparison to. So because they got that down in comparison to you, you are naive to think that a holy God who loves women, who loves his daughters Eve, is going to, if you think God is going to hand ubiquitously and comprehensively Eve over, Earth's Eve over, to the irresponsible Eve that is denying how they're made, very foundationally, who God made them to be. The rest of the women on earth, essentially, that aren't as crazy as these crazy women. If you think God is going to subject all of us that admit that I don't want to go to war, I don't. The rest of us who admit that I want a man, a strong man, to have my back, who admit that my softer voice, frankly, if at all I can't shout loud enough on a podium to get heard, I would love for somebody to help me along with their bassy voice. The rest of us that admit our roles and are cool to just be girls, to think that a holy God is going to subject the rest of the women who are still thinking like this to the tyranny of the ones who want to be boys. You're naive. You are Sodom. And like Romans 1, you're going to be headed over to your reprobate mind. Your folly is going to ultimately be clear to everybody. But before you get rained fire and brimstone on your heads, you are going to subject the rest of us to the tyranny of walking around butch like women, even though you're women, and walking around effeminate as men, even though you are supposed to be bigger than that. The Lord is not going to hand a society full of exhausted souls that are tired with people denying who they've been made to be over to the tyranny of a section of society that is in violent denial about facts. So, abusive men, you are babies, you are like children, you have dropped the ball ever so violently, and because you're like kids, listen up. The Lord has been giving me extreme warnings, alright? Women are in danger at the hands of primary school boys. If you've been a child for any amount of time some time ago, you will remember boys that had no scruples in your school, that did not have better manners, that were not trained a little bit better by parents at home, that did not have a kindness and a sweetness to them. How, especially when you're in primary school, how avoided they were by girls. You will remember those boys that were rough, that pushed girls on the school playground, had no regard for the fact that she's a girl. Don't do that. Not all little boys were like that. Listen, kids can be mean, okay? And kids can be dangerous and ridiculous. Do you understand? But there are kids that are so unhinged that they're just frankly dangerous for everybody. Remember when you were in school, there were some boys, if you're a girl, maybe even if you're a boy, but largely girls would be able to relate. There were some boys that were just no-go zones because they were just violent. They were quick to shove, quick to push, quick to hit. They didn't speak kindly to girls. They had a rough edge about them, and it was easy for them to hit a girl. Like, easy. They did not tiptoe around girls. They did not have that inbuilt sense of decorum around women that men must be cultured to acquire. When you grow up in a certain ecosystem upon observing how girls are treated, and also when men train you up rightly, and also women, you don't just carelessly act in the climate of girls like that. But there were boys in school that were frankly kind of dangerous. I personally have been punched in the gut when I was in grade 5, standard 3, by a boy that got irritated with me. I can't even remember what I was doing, what I was saying, whether I was teasing him, but he punched me so hard in my stomach that for the first time in my life I understood why in the movies when people get punched they just open their mouths and just basically roll around on the floor, appearing to have I couldn't breathe, like the wind was kicked out of me. I knew what it was like. I know what it's like to be punched in the stomach. Because of that boy, I've never been punched since. I've never been hurt like that ever since. But that boy left me unable to breathe for a couple of minutes, and I could not minutes, but like about a minute, I couldn't breathe properly. I couldn't inhale or exhale. But he was one of those kids, those boy children, that he could actually bring a knife to school and kill another boy or even a girl if he feels some kind of way. Not all kids are unhinged like that. They're not just these wild animals that can jump, that have no self-control in the wilderness, just doing whatever they want, moving from tree to tree like an ape. Kids do have a sense of morality in them. They have a sense of right and wrong, a sense of guilt. They have a sense of fear of consequences, of ramifications. They do have that in them. Thank God. They're not all just beastly, but there are some children that are unhinged. They're unhinged enough to be a danger in schools, to other children, to teachers, to girls. And you don't want a boy like this hitting on you. You don't want a boy like this having a crush on you. You don't want that. They don't make up the majority of young kids, but just one is enough to cause a great deal of havoc in the school. Yeah, the men that are doing this to women are like those boys in school. They can just kill a fellow student, yo, and then go home and sleep and wait for the police. Like, hey, yo, it's just that he has. Earlier I said witchcraft. Before you just easily quickly go putting your hand in the cookie jar, getting your fingers grubby with this stuff, think twice, because you do not know what the devil can make you do because of an entity that comes into your body. All of us likely have demons before redemption, but how those demons get used really depends. Some of them can lie dormant and rear their ugly head one time in some argument inside the body of a person, but entities go right to work, almost like putting their hands together to eat grub when they're dealing with a Christian. And the level of violence I have seen in men that seem innocuous outside, their outward appearance and how they are, their social profile is so innocuous. They appear to be the kinds of men that would never harm a fly. They've got reputations that precede them in that regard. Sometimes they stand for women's rights. But when shrouded by closed doors of occult magic, the amount of blood they shed, the amount of blood they spill, it evidences a kid that never grew. It shows a child that was never groomed to be a man, that is very angry at being rejected, and instead of taking it out on video games and maybe even teasing the little girl on some, you're not even that pretty, the way that most little boys do when they get rejected, he then goes to the extreme of killing another 12-year-old, another 13-year-old, another 10-year-old. That's when you know that a child is really unhinged. But by then, a 10-year-old girl is dead. A 13-year-old girl is dead. These men are still like boys that have never been trained manhood, and they get so angry at women that reject them that they kill them. So even though the woman might look 27, she might look 32, she might look 40 like Karabo. It's as good as we're still in grade 5 and everybody is 11 and this boy has a crush on you. You know how when kids have a crush on you, when you're still a child, boys, when they have a crush on the girl that they like, sometimes they're mean to her. They tease her. Huh? Why is your hair like that? Huh? Why is this? That's the innocuous way of these boys dealing with their feelings. It's how, before they mature into men, this is how these boys respond to a lack of acceptance. Just teasing. But as time progresses, this should happen. This should happen as a kid is growing. When they become teenagers, when they become young men, they should now grab that rejection and funnel it through maturity. In that you don't just get to push the girl on the school playground that you have a crush on to evidence that you like her. I've had a boy when I was a little girl paint my new Christmas skirt with yellow paint because there were construction working where he stayed. And that was apparently an act of evidence of affection, because when you're that young, you apparently allegedly can't act on your feelings because you're still too young and it's taboo and it's frowned upon for you to be engaging in romantic relations as a boy or a girl. Girls tend to therefore respond to crushes they have on little boys by saying ew, and boys respond to crushes they have on little girls by teasing them, shoving them, pushing them, taking their pencils, annoying them, putting things in their hair, pea shooting them in class. They will tend to pea shoot the girl they have a crush on, irritate the living daylights out of her as a means to make war with the feelings they have within. But then they become teenagers. They enter into puberty. They become adolescents. And that is when it is apparently okay to start dating. They then start doing things like sending you a letter, hey, I like you, I have a crush on you. That's when they start experimenting with dating. So essentially all that pent-up emotion, all that pent-up crush that they have as a 6-year-old, now as a 14-year-old, they are brave enough to be like, hey, do you want to go to the dance with me? Hey, do you want to go get a movie? Hey, do you want to whatever? So they start to become men. They start to learn how to deal with feelings for girls. The appropriate response to a girl you like is to treat her kindly. Be nice so as to increase your chances of her agreeing to be with you. So they start asking girls out instead of, I have a crush on you, so I'm gonna push you. I have a crush on you, so I'm going to pea shoot. I have a crush on you, so I'm going to paint your skirt. That's a natural progression. It's a healthy one, where a boy goes from teasing the girl he likes to actually asking her to go to the movies. And it's supposed to progress from there as they get older. It's supposed to get even better. They're supposed to become even more manly with their feelings. Now they go and they grab that crush and then make it something very important, like dilobolo, manobolo. I marry you. We're gonna go and have children. I want you to be in my life for the rest of my days. You're the one I have chosen. And then they go into the sunset. That's how they're supposed to graduate. But somebody that is stuck in childhood, that is upset that they did not get reciprocated to romantically, kills. They're still children. Earlier, I spoke about how it is that when the devil infiltrates a person into your life that is not of God, he will invest these character flaws in them in your life to frustrate you. They will sow discord. They will concoct machinations. They'll separate you. Proverbs 6, where is it? 1960. They will be arrogant, pass you reverse psychology shade, so they are not going to be upfront with their feelings. They are not going to be prepared. Frankly, we're dealing with a bunch of children, okay? It is only boys that when they have a crush on a girl are ashamed of it, because apparently it is shameful to be having crushes on girls, because that's stuff that only grown-ups do, right? That's how children feel about crushes. I know I felt that way. I was embarrassed by them. I didn't tell it to anybody because how dare I have these adult emotions. So men that are still very much trapped in their childish stage, and it's dangerous because they become like these unhinged kids who can kill girls, right? Rather than confess to Mbali that, can I go to the movies with you? I think you're pretty. That's what a teenage boy that's growing properly is supposed to do. Ask the girl to the dance. Ask the girl to the bioscope. These ones teach each other even from high school space, which is why Andrew Tate is such a freaking big problem to the youth, okay? Misogynistic men like those that are still children, however, with the outward appearance of looking like men, are just dangerous for the developing man and for developed men, for grown men. They basically maintain a fixation on some childhood stage and so cause just a violence against women. A little boy that has a crush on a girl because he's ashamed of it will be proud about that crush, right? Reverse psychology in a grown man is how they show interest in a woman. We are supposed to apparently read into it or whatever. They will pretend they don't like you when they do. That's literally what boys do. Think about it. They will pretend they like you. They don't like you when you're the one they're looking at. They will act a particular way around you. A proud look. That's the first description in Proverbs 6. This is what the kind of man that infiltrates your life looks like. Look at me. I am beleaguered on all sides by men that want to marry me, and yet how many of them have actually slid into my DMs, dropped into my space? How many of them have actually tried to vocalize that they think I'm pretty, I'm beautiful, I'm intriguing, I'm this, I'm that? Nothing. Instead, they want to bring me to such a lowly position, a place of groveling and begging, that I will take whatever comes my way when it finally presents itself. This is the position that I'm finding myself in today, and I'm trying to warn women against it. Yeah, I have to keep on waiting for my phone to charge because the battery is just dying and dying. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, yeah, the first one over here is a proud look. So they're too arrogant to admit that they like you. When the first thing that Adam did when he saw Eve was confess that this had lost is bone of his bone and flesh of my flesh. So a guy that doesn't want to tell you his feelings up front, that you have to pull out a confession of the height of his adoration for you, is a dangerous man. It's a dangerous man. A man that withholds affection is not withholding it because he's shy to tell you he loves you. He's withholding it because he is putting you in your place by not telling you that he loves you. It is a curse from Adam that he wants to lord it over you with an iron fist, and so in so doing he is withholding affection. A man that is on that determined, spiteful mission to not let you see that he is all that into you, especially in the beginning stages of your courtship. If he is dishonest about his feelings, he's like a boy, he's a child, and in particular one that's quite passive aggressive pertaining women. It will mushroom, it will burgeon, it will graduate to aggression, and in worst case scenarios, aggression graduates to murder. I am a survivor of multiple attempted murder, human sacrifice rituals on my back from men that did not even so much as write me an email. Just by mere virtue of listening to everything that I say, concluded that I would definitely reject them over a season of knowing them. Tried to change my mind using witchcraft when it didn't work. They did that which an unhinged child who has got some screw loose would do to a girl that he has a crush on that doesn't want. He could kill her, leave her in a ditch, go home and then sleep. I watched a show that I wish I hadn't watched on Netflix because I was just curious about it when the previews were playing. I wish I didn't watch it because it's my story, and it just hit so close to home that I was bereft the whole time, and it sat on me like a bad taste in my mouth. And secondly, I wish I didn't watch it because it was just full of profanity, and every so often I grieve the Holy Spirit and ride it through shows like this. The name of the show is Adolescence. I wouldn't encourage anybody to watch it, especially considering it is so full of profanity. If there was no swearing in it, whatever, it wouldn't matter if people watched it. I personally didn't like it because it was too close to home. It was too close to home. I'm 40, and yet it was close to home. That show, as you can tell by the name of it, it was basically about a boy, a 13-year-old boy that killed a 13-year-old girl because he got rejected by her. It just left such a bad taste in my mouth because I could not see the difference between that boy and all the men that have put me in this hole. You might as well have put a 25-year-old man's suit on him, a 30-year-old man's suit on him, a 45-year-old man's suit on him, because the men that are all up in my grill range in age from around that, like 24, 5 to the oldest guy I think is like 63. That's all up in my grill like this. And yet they are all like that adolescent boy on a 13 that one day had a meeting with a girl in the park and killed her, stabbed her 7 times. That amount of wrath coming out of a child, you'd wonder what's going on over there. But you see, there are men who are stuck in that kind of grain, who feel rejected by women. And unlike most boys who take it out by being mean and pea shooting and maybe gossiping the girl, they go to the extreme of murder. And occult magic has enabled these adolescents in the bodies of middle-aged men to kill remotely. Some of these men have literally got a trail of cadavers behind them. Women who look like they committed suicide. Women who got into car accidents. Women who lost everything, their careers, like as in she got unraveled from society, unstitched, because a guy wanted to show her where to get off. And then goes on to finish her off by driving over her body when he's done. So you disenfranchise a woman and leave her unemployed using wealth transfers. And then when she can't come up for air because she's still beautiful and because she's still rejecting you, seeing as you want to take care of her, now that she's unemployed, when she says no in the state of unemployment, more so do you feel entitled, because according to you it's like, but you have nothing, Mus. How dare you reject me even when you're poor? When you had money, maybe you were walking around me like a stank because you were self-sufficient, had your own apartment and everything. You were successful, a young woman, a young entrepreneur. I've unhinged you. I've derailed you from your career. I've cursed you to oblivion, and you still won't get down on your knees and grovel at my feet. Most women, which is the thing that I'm getting to right now, settle for this. Because it's hard to watch your life fall apart. It's hard to lose a job that you were good at. It's hard, and without reason. It's hard to have to face the prospect of your house being foreclosed on, even though you took out a bond just 6 months ago. It's too early for you to be losing. It's hard to be disenfranchised. It's what I'm getting at, okay? When you don't have anything, having had a recent history of having everything, and you do not know Jesus from a bar of soap, understand that as a woman, you are going to, albeit having what you call principles and values, take what these guys are offering. They show up conveniently at your doorstep when you are high and dry, having come from a season of living in springs of water. And they will offer you themselves, and even though you were grossed out last year, now it's apparently a necessary evil for you to do this thing. Men who derail women like that and then feel proud that they prospered to pin down a woman that historically didn't want him, when they meet somebody that still says no because they hold on to their virtue or whatever, that's when they feel like we are arrogant. Some of us, of which upon rejecting him, are only rejecting them because we are godly and so we don't go out like that. Some women, however, have a willpower, a strength of character, and they just choose not to go out like this, and they would much rather ride out poverty and try to do things still by the book. It is the ones that try to do things by the book that find themselves on the ground, or the ones that even though they didn't do things by the book, now that they decided Uthi lo muntu lona is disrespectful, I'm not going to carry on with this guy, like he treats me like trash. When they try to walk out, then they die. Bit of a Karabo mugwena. They pass away from entitled men who are still boys, who, unhinged by the prospect of rejection from girls, can drive a knife 7 times into her body. I think that show Adolescence is not based on a true story. I don't think so. If it is, then it's quite sorrowful that that's a thing. But one of the things that they mention in that show, Adolescence, I'm sorry, that is rain, okay? One of the things that they where's hail? Nochal. One of the things that they mention in Adolescence is that Andrew Tate has something to do with inspiring those kids into feeling entitled to sex from other girls, from basically the opposite sex. And if you don't get it, it makes you a wuss or whatever. So based on the theories and ideologies of a misogynistic man, here is a 13-year-old boy killing a girl because he was sick and tired of being in the group of boys that were perpetually rejected by girls. The whole 80-20 thing, where apparently 80% of women are attracted to 20% of men, inspired a boy that felt like he was in the 80%. A boy that felt like he was in the 20%, in the 80%, basically of men that women are not attracted to girls. Him feeling that rejected, then made a decision to kill a girl. That show left a bad taste in my mouth because of the spiritual war that I am in. I don't think it's based on a true story, and if it is, it's quite sombering and sobering. But even if it's not based on a true story, it is certainly inspired by things that are happening on Earth right now. We are living in an age where kids are taking weaponry to school and killing. And we are also living in an age where hatred of women is so extreme that little boys now are becoming violent against little girls in ways that historically was not the case. And in the worst case scenario, even death. Even death. Those boys that are 13 manifest awkwardly and outwardly too in grown men. But because these men are grown and they have gone through better training than that, they're not so quick to whip out a knife and stab a woman 7 times in a park. But they have found a weapon that is spiritual to do that. Literally feeling as if though a woman that you're in love with that does not want you back cannot live unless she's with you. So you go back to the drawing board over and over and over and over again to do a human sacrifice ritual, not realizing that the only reason you're doing that is because you never graduated from being mean to the girl you have a crush on, to actually asking her out. You are still under the curse of Adam, who will try to lord it over Eve and try to punish Eve with her insatiable desire to have a husband. You are still in the curse, and being in the curse can only graduate to hating a woman so much that you would kill her. Whereas Christ says, love her the way that I have loved the church and gave my life up for her. It is an immaturity on the part of worldly men that, given that we are living in 2025, such a horrible society as this, you can't afford as a woman to first and foremost not give your life to Christ, and secondly be unequally yoked. You can't afford to be unequally yoked with an unbeliever, because gone are the days where women married to unbelievers or men married to unbelievers merely endure the tyranny of not having their spouse come to church with them on Sunday, the tyranny of struggling to figure out how our children are going to be raised, under what precepts, what values are we gonna pass down to them. Gone are the days of disagreeing concerning theology The one is an atheist, the one is a believer. But that's about it. You can still rest in the same. Yeah, gone are the days when now you and your unbelieving spouse can still be largely at peace, but hey, don't talk about religion because then somebody's going to be driven up the wall, right? Where a woman just goes to church on Sunday and goes to church, goes to Bible study, crankhead, you're not outside, just relax. The rain is not devastating to you in here, I promise. Gone are the days when that's like a whole thing. The times have changed. They're exceptionally evil, and Satan is exceptionally desperate. So when people get unequally yoked in this 2023, in this 2025, I don't know why I say 2023. Maybe I'm thinking about the attack on the 7th of October. When things get that far, all right, now there are cases in increasing measure of just dead spouses, like accommodating an unbeliever and the next thing you pass away. The height of malevolence by demonic entities is increasing. Understand, we are closer to a time in history where the restrainer is going to be removed. And so what demons can do through people who are demon possessed is also going to be that much more nefarious. And in the run-up to, that level of chaos is going to ramp up. So no longer are you going to be just in disagreement, happy to agree to disagree with your unbelieving spouse. Now it's a knife through your heart. Now it is an axe at the back of your head. If at all, ungodly men can so butcher in South Africa, which is the worst country to live in as a woman, if they can so butcher godless women, if they can just massacre women that don't know God, if they can chop up their bodies into many parts and put them in a duffel bag and then leave it on a street corner to be found by walkaboys, if that's how ungodly men can kill ungodly women, what in the world do you think is going to happen when a man is now also hyper agitated by the spirit of God? Earlier, I spoke about that game, Doomsday whatever, okay? And in that show, there was this chunky entity or big chunky zombie that couldn't be easily killed. You had to have the right artillery. I'm a Christian and I have days when I drop the ball. I'm a Christian and I have days when, never mind dropping the ball, but I'm just not as feverish in a spiritual state or space of consecration as I sometimes am. There are some days where you are more prayerful than others. There are some days where you are fasted and others where you are not. There are some days when you are seasonally compromised and you will come back and snap out of your crappy trash again. But for now, you are just allowing yourself to consume profane shows on Netflix. What I'm trying to get at is that Christians have ups and downs, ebbs and flows. They have seasons where they grieve the Holy Spirit, where they disappoint God. So they're not the best warrior for the minute. They're not in the best position to be in the front lines of battle. And when you are married to an unbeliever, you are literally sitting in the front lines in front of enemy lines. You are neck on neck with an enemy. It's like this is your camp and this is their camp. All the warriors are a kilometer away from the front lines. Some of them are in triage. Some of them are in the dormitories because they're taking turns to be in the front lines. They're more inland. But there are soldiers that are so in the front lines that they get woken up by bombs in the middle of the night. They are so in the front lines that they can't sleep but for just 2 hours, each on a rotating cycle. And soldiers that are at enemy lines, like in front of each other. I'm sorry, that's the rain. Soldiers that are right at the front lines, be they for God or for the devil. There is always a potential for them to break out into a war strategy, to unleash a live round. Soldiers that are 3 kilometers away from the front lines can sleep for 8 hours in a night successfully because the fighting is happening somewhere else. But these soldiers are with one eye open, and even then they sleep taking turns, they rotate. The same thing is true for the soldiers of Satan or of the enemy. The ones who are closest to the fighting are always just unleashing rounds, and they sleep for 2-hour periods and wake up, and they can never have a full 8 hours a day sleep cycle. They're always ready therefore to unleash a round from their weaponry. They're always ready to fire from the tank. They're always ready to throw a bomb, a hand grenade, a nuke, and a gun, shoot their machine guns. Being always ready does not mean that they will unleash that round, but it means that they can at any time. The same is true of godly soldiers right next to ungodly soldiers. In other words, soldiers of Satan versus soldiers of God. Those who are on the outskirts can afford to chill for a minute. The ones here must always be alert. And when you are in a marriage to an unbeliever, you are automatically, whether you like it or not, at the front lines. Automatically, you are placed there by mere virtue of being in the same house as the enemy.